In the last video, we talked about uh, pollution permits could be an effective way of reducing uh, externalities, negative externalities, and they could do it at a relatively lower cost. And this was put into practice in the 1990s. The 41st President, George Herbert Walker Bush, uh, implemented this scheme in 1994, and trading in what amounted to sulfur dioxide pollution permits has contributed to a 30% drop in emissions, according to the EPA. And basically, it works like this. In 1995, an upper limit or a cap was set that reduces the amount of sulfur dioxide to be released. So they set an upper limit of what can be produced. So 110 of the nation's dirtiest power plants were issued tradable certificates. When you added up all these certificates, it added up to the total amount that they wanted to pollute, which was a reduction. Companies that cut emissions below their cap had extra certificates to sell to companies who could not meet their reduction goals. Companies can save certificates from year to year, and that means they could have certificates that they could use at a later date. And you could see in 2014 who bought these. Well, this power gen company, KS&T, an investment firm, they bought 60,000 and 44,000 permits. But look who else bought it. Warren Wilson College Ecological Economics class. They bought 230 permits. And what they did was they bought these permits and they never sold them. They kept them. And by buying a permit, a pollution permit, you take away the chance of other firms using it to pollute. So this is a way for environmental firms or environmental organizations to actually participate in the market and reduce pollution by taking permits out of circulation. So that's kind of interesting. I've given you a nice little website to look at more of how these pollution markets work. Now, those were incentive-based approaches. What about command and control options? These are strict regulatory options. With command and control options, the government commands the firm to reduce pollution and then controls the process and how they do it. Excessive process regulation may definitely increase the cost of environmental protection because it's very costly for firms, for the government to impose these types of regulations. So when the process regulation raises the costs of environmental protection, we may have government failure, right? When it's too costly to correct for market failure. Then it would make sense to maybe deregulate. So some of the worst evidence of government failure exists in centrally planned economies. Think about the former Soviet Union as an example. Government-directed production isn't more environmentally friendly than market-based production. They can lead to just as bad environmental outcomes. So that's all for the environmental protection. And so when you look at the last two chapters, deregulation and environmental protection, those two chapters can be grouped together as examples of market failure and what could the government do, if anything, to correct for those.